What up, YouTube? It's your boy, Detroit Love, with a live video. What's going on, everybody? I'm in quarantine for several days, stuck in the man cave, food shoved under the door, forgotten to the world outside. I mean, you would think in this place with all these things to do, it would be a pleasure, but I'm going stir crazy. So I'm jumping on to see who's out here so I can have some interactions with some folks. What up, MSU Rich? How you doing, brother? Good evening. This thing is kind of blurry. There we go. Good evening, Jason Little Alien. This is my quarantine live video. Just getting a little stir crazy. So let me get out here and interact with some folk. Definitely doing much better after getting finally COVID. COVID finally got me, and so I've been quarantined, working from home, and man, they've been getting a lot of hours from me by me working at home. So I have not totally been disconnected from the outside world. It's just been crazy. I got out a couple times and blow some snow off the drive. Other than that, it's been work, sleep, drugs, medication, and rinse and repeat. So what's been going on, gentlemen? I'd love to hear from you. What have I been missing in the world, arcade or not? Whatever you guys are interested in talking about, I just want to interact, if that's okay with you. If you guys are, out there doing something much more interesting, then have at it. But I just wanted to see who was out here and say what's up. What's going on, Ted? What's happening? Yeah, so I finally get my voice back. Finally, my nose is not running like a faucet. Fortunately, I didn't have very severe COVID symptoms, and so that was great. But it got me, and then it got my wife, and it got the person that came to help me install the servers. So this stuff is highly contagious. I have no idea where I got it from. Wasn't really interacting with a whole lot of people, and I had very little interaction with that gentleman. I kind of stayed away from him. We took an elevator ride up and down to go to a restaurant that we just picked up and came back. So that had to be the exchange that he got, because I avoided him ever since then. So it's COVID, and I know there's been a lot of respiratory infections going on around as well. So crazy stuff. So I'll test again tomorrow, and hopefully I have the all clear. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So my wife got a little worse than I did. So hoping she gets well soon. Um, it's a bummer when you give it. I give it to my wife, give it to one of my IT partners, and the attendant didn't know I had it. So that was craziness. Um, but so I've been stuck down here. I did. You guys might have seen a quick video I did. I was playing some Mr. Do, and man, Mr. Do, I forget how fast those guys are. It's a Dig Dug, right? It's inspired by Dig Dug, obviously. But man, those whatever those creatures that are chasing you, man, they do not give up. Yes, it does, man. It's crazy. I guess I've been fortunate since all this time to avoid it, and it finally got me. But again, at least it didn't kill me, and at least it didn't do worse. But yeah, so I got to play some Mr. Do. I don't know, a lot of people, do you guys even know about Mr. Do? Do you guys play that? Is that what you guys enjoy playing? I'm a vertical guy. I'm a vertical guy. Yeah, I would agree that is much better than Dig Dug, though the pace that they come at it's just relentless. And again, arcade games evolved so that they got more money faster, right? So Mr. Do definitely is much more interesting. You get to throw that ball. You got to wait for that thing to come back. You got the apples dropping, similar to the rocks that Dig Dug had, right? And then you have those letters that you got to get, and the cakes and all that different stuff. So it's definitely much more interesting, though it is much harder. Dig Dug's not easy as well, but Dig Dug 2 is horrible. That was just a terrible rendition. Like somebody just like, let's just throw something together and call it Dig Dug 2. Dig Dug 2 is horrible. But I definitely love to play some Dig Dug, love to play some Mr. Do. One of your top 10s. What would you put as your top 2? I'm interested. What's your top 2 games of all time? I love to hear that from the chat. What is your top 2? My top 2, I would say, Donkey Kong, definitely Donkey Kong. Yeah, and I go back and forth. I put Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. in the same category because I can't divide them. I can't say I like one better than the other. I can, however, say I do not like Donkey Kong 3 at all, and 2. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. Are my favorite, so I'll put that as 1. And of course, I love some Pac-Man. I love all the Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, even the ones with the Pepsi, Cola, and all that crazy stuff there. Plus Pac-Man Plus, I can deal with it. I love the Pac-Mans, but I would have to say Tekken is my second favorite. So I would say Donkey Kong's my favorite. Tekken's my second favorite. But Jason loves the little Mr. Do himself. Yeah, I mean it's just it's just a difficult thing to do. So I think I'm gonna play some more because I pop in and I play certain games, and I don't know if you guys do this. I have the attract mode turned on, right? The demo, the screensaver. So I don't use attract mode. I used to use attract mode at one time, but I've switched back to emulation station on my modded multi-case. So on the multi-case, I love to have the screensaver going with the videos from games that are on the cabinet, right? And so that is such a great way to reintroduce or discover games that you may not be that familiar with. So I always have that running, and that way I see something like, oh yeah, and I'll click on the start button and that'll launch that game. So if you aren't using the video screensaver on your multi-cage, if you're using a Raspberry Pi, at least with emulation station, it's definitely a must-have to do, because one, it gives you that full arcade experience, because you get all the video and sounds from all these various games, but it also introduces you to new games if you have thousands of games on there, or reintroduce you to something that you may not have played for quite a while. ColecoVision. Oh, let's talk about some ColecoVision, because ColecoVision was one of the awesome. ColecoVision was one of a great option for the time, right? For the time. I mean, most of the games were absolutely horrible versions of the real game. I'm going to tell this guy's story without the story being told. All right, so we'll just put it. And let me present video. Nope, share screen. Share screen, entire screen. And share. Add to page. All right. So just talk about ColecoVision. I had a ball with this. I never owned it personally. Or cousin. You always had that one cousin didn't have 4 other siblings like me, right? So they had more discretionary funds. Their parents had more discretionary funds than my parents did. And so, I mean, just looking at this game, I don't even know what this game is. What's this game supposed to be? The name is in my head. That's minor, but it's a play off a different game. The games are horrible. They were horrible. You know, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, all the games are horrible, but you could play them at home, right? You could play, you know, an arcade title at home, though, you know, you were glad that you could, but you were definitely glad that you could get out to the arcade and play the real thing, because these things were crazy. Love finding the diamonds. At some point in time, you're going to build your own dedicated Mr. Doom. That would be pretty cool. So, Michael Wayne, welcome to the chat, brother. Appreciate you. Probably Peter, Packrat, and Joust. I love some Joust. So Joust is definitely up in my top. Excuse me. My top 25. Sure. You know, one day I'm just going to sit and classify, rank things. Say, look at this, Donkey Kong Jr. here. ColecoVision, man. See, I have no. Even though this brings back some memories, like I said, it was great that you could play this at home and didn't have to go and have quarters and do that. I just because I can play the emulation of the actual ROMs that are at the arcade, I have no desire to play old ColecoVision or Atari, 2600 versions, when I can play, let's say, my Tempest, get the real experience. So I appreciate that they make these available for people to still play. I just have zero interest in it, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate that I had the opportunity to play these games. Do I have Mr. Do on my Field Decay? I have to. Um, I love that little builder cave. I still have a few more videos I need to do on that. So anyone else want to share what their top 2 video games of all time, arcade games of all time, were? Did any of you guys play these Coleco games? Yeah, like I said, my cousin had ColecoVision, and the other game that was widely fun to play at the time was the Vex. What was that? What was that thing called? Vectrex arcade machine or something like that. Oh, I'm not on YouTube, or maybe I am on YouTube. This game here. Did you guys ever play this? This thing was lots of fun to play. So, you know, a lot of guys talk about the Star Trek, and I have it modded with the Buy Stuff store for that Vex game. I never really played the Star Wars. I played a lot of this here, though. My cousin had this, and it's just a little tabletop cabinet for the home, and man, hours and hours of playing this little thing. And I had this on one of my mods, you know, multi-cams. Though still very little interest in playing it, but this thing was one of the coolest things for the time. And again, my cousin parents had a lot more. This is a different cousin. He had this thing, and I would definitely go over his house. I mean, that thing is filthy. Yeah. Like cleaning his ears. But it's cool. I mean, I bet he would love to have one of these. Yeah, I remember those boxes. It was like little cartridges that you could put in. I like that little picture frame he has here. I have to check his description and see where I can get one of those. I like that. That's pretty cool. So this is the Vectrex game console. Look like they pulled this one right out of the 80s. I have to ask my cousin if he thought about this Vectrex console in a long time. Now he's got color. I think you had to put like a screen thing to add color to it. Look at that. That thing's fun. Hyper Chase. Do you guys remember those little car driving handhelds you could buy? And it was literally just a belt with cars, like 2 different belts, and they would go at different speeds and it would make it look like cars were driving, and you had to avoid hitting those cars. I don't know what those things are called, but those are one of my childhood favorites. So he didn't have all these little fancy overlays that I can recall. Now what is this? That's clearly not on the Vectrex. Is it? I've never seen this. This must be some new Starhawk. Yeah. See, he never had the ability to use the color inlay. Usually that's just a slip on. So he never had those things. Everything was just one color. The other thing, let's see, I would say 80s. Let's see. Yes. This thing here. I don't know if you guys ever had these things growing up. These are pretty good, pretty cool. And it was just these, you had to avoid hitting. You had that little guide here at the top of your steering wheel, and you couldn't hit whatever was on the screen with this little thing. Oh yeah, Radio Shack used to have some great handhelds. I have no idea what this thing is called. Analog car racing game. Analog. Try it. Yeah. Tommy Turning Turbo. This is a pretty advanced one. Did I? What's going on? Shogeko, what up? Yeah, so I don't know if you guys recall these little racing simulators, which was pretty cool considering we didn't have all the technology we have today, right? Everyone's streaming. What up, Collins R. Us? Look, man, I've been in quarantine. All the vacation fellas, they all forgot about me, left me to die with COVID. So I had to let everybody know I'm still alive some type of way. Yes, I used to love these little things growing up. You didn't have Outrun and Crazy Taxi and all these things that you spoiled cats had. I believe Jason and I are going live in an hour or two. All right, pinball time. I'll have to check you out for sure. And then some of the definite favorites of what all that is. Mattel LED football. Now, I don't know if you guys know these things, but these gadgets were the must-have devices back in the 70s. To be able to play this football, man, hours and hours on one of these things. And I know they came out with other ones. I know we had a baseball one, played a little bit of baseball one as well. But Mattel football, tons and tons and tons of hours with these things. That's the best they can get me from that search. There we go. I mean, a very simplistic device, and but at the time it was quite revolutionary, right? Um, yeah, I don't know if you guys ever seen the evolution of LEDs. How most every LED was red, right? There was no other color you could do, uh, and then they started adding more colors, but they couldn't figure out the color blue, and blue is needed to create most of the colors, combinations of colors, right? So once they figured out how to create a blue LED, then boom, that's how we get to see all these colors that we see today with lights that just didn't exist prior to this. You think about your VCR back in the day, goodness. Every LED was red. You know, of course you can have white, right? But once they figured out how to make a blue LED, the sky was the limit on what you could do. But pretty interesting. If you guys ever get bored, it's a pretty interesting documentary about the blue LED. I saw years ago. But this classic football, man, was by Mattel. Was a lot of fun to play. Growing up, man, life was so much simpler, man. A lot of times people complain about kids don't do anything. All they want to do is sit on their computers and sit on their iPads. And babies are addicted to their mama's phone, and they can't. You take the phone away from them, they'll scream bloody murder. Definitely a different time, and we definitely went outside and played football in the streets, and had tackle on the side. In the city streets, you had this little piece of grass between the street and the sidewalk, and if you were, it was tag if you were on the concrete or the sidewalk, but if you got on that grass, then tackling was a fair game with street football. But we used to play tons of street football, obviously basketball, ride our dirt bikes. Everybody had bikes. Even most of us, we just put together some bikes that weren't very safe, but they got us around. But we did a lot of things outside. We made bow and arrows. We made swords. We made these little clothespin guns. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that clothespin gun. And of course, those things are extremely dangerous. You can put somebody's eyes out with that. Our parents would tell us and remind us. Does the modern world know about the clothespin guns? There's laundry clothespins, laundry clothes. Stop it. Pen guns. Well, they got a mini matchstick gun. I guess that's some iteration. But the concept would be the same. Let's just look at this here. I don't think so. Yeah. But these clothespins, we would attach these to a stick, and back in the day, somebody got. Let me say clothespin rifle. Clearly, someone has to be. But again, someone would have to go way back. And nobody but this one guy. No surprise. All right. Nope. No such thing. But so what we would do We'll just play this guy's thing anyway. See we would, back in the day before the modern cans of soda, pop, whatever you call it, before you had the tops that you open today. You normally have a can, yeah, right here. All right. So before the invention of this can top, you had a much sinister and dangerous tab that had a finger hole that you would grab, and that whole thing would pop off of the can, and you would have the whole piece of the can here that stays in, the sharp part that stays in, out of reach and out of danger. Instead of this being a piece that pushes that out of the way, the old one would pull off that metal shaving. And so you had a ring that you would grab that off and rip it off. Okay. That ring that is used, we used to put in with those clothespins. I don't know what this guy's making. That's not helping with my story. Let's just find the clothespin again. So for people who may not know what the hell a clothespin is. That's oh goodness. Okay, here. So with this clothespin, if you let it go, it closes. If you squeeze it, it opens its jaw, right? And these were used to hang clothes on a line outside to dry. And we would take those rings that you would pop off the cans and make the stick, and you put rubber bands at the tip of the, tie a string of rubber bands at the tip of the rifle stick, and you have this clothespin back towards your thumb, and you would put one of those rings between the rubber bands and pinch it in this clothespin, and then you would squeeze the clothespin to release that ring, and this disc would fly through the air a pretty great distance. And so we used to run around the neighborhood shooting these things at each other. Of course, nobody got their eyes shot out, but it was pretty dangerous nevertheless. But we were using the technology that was available to find something fun to do. What up, JR? Rubber band gun. That's it. Google rubber band gun. Okay, let's try it. Nope, I don't know why this is pretending this if it's not. Okay. A rubber band gun. Type it. Rubber band. I mean, this is kind of a shortened version of it, but the concept is that. But we use those clothespins as the trigger. We didn't, have it look like an extra gun, but you get the point. I'm just really surprised. And well, again, you can buy so many different things today that this stuff is long past gone. I was watching a video earlier talking about, this is closer to what we did, and you could do it where like this, where it shot the actual rubber band itself. So obviously we've done it this way too, where you can shoot the actual rubber band at somebody, or in our case, we were doing the caps to the pop. But as the new invention for cans came out, all those rings eventually disappeared, right? Because they were making the evolution from one style to the other. So we obviously had to evolve to just shoot the rubber bands as well. But again, the point I was making is that, you know, we were outside and we were creative and we were thinking of ways to have fun using what was available. Welcome, JR. I didn't know you had snuck in. I love the content you're covering. I wish others would do more of this. Yeah, man, just reminiscing. That's all I'm doing. Just reminiscing about those days long past gone. And I, you know, one of my old elementary school buddies, I ran into him, and we end of last year, watched some of the Lions games. It's pretty fun. But him and I used to play marbles, and every now and then I still see marbles. So people are using marbles. I don't know what they're using marbles for. I've never seen kids outside at the playground playing marbles. Weirdly, I mean, maybe it's the same where you are. You seldom see kids outside at playgrounds playing anything. But our playgrounds used to be full. And for some reason, our playgrounds never had the swings on them. They had the monkey bars and the slides and that very dangerous, what's that carousel spinning thing? Many people lost some teeth falling from that little thing that you just got on and got spent around till you got dizzy and fell off. A lot of our things are pretty dangerous. They've evolved to either make those things. I remember those little courses, little figures you get on, just this big giant spring, and you go back and forth. Those things are extremely dangerous as well. They got rid of a lot of those things. So a lot of playgrounds are missing a lot of anything that's can be considered fun like we had, because they're too dangerous. The rubber band man. Yes. Yeah, well, again, there's a lot of things that are just gone forever. One thing I know, my aunties, I had lots of aunts and uncles, and when you have 14 kids, you don't have my grandmother didn't have money to buy certain toys and things like that. So I remember they would make paper dolls. They would make paper dolls, and then they would have these clothes that you could cut off, and you just bend the tabs, and you could change them from formal to all these different things. And then they would have Barbies and things like that. But they had tons of fun with those paper dolls, and with their dolls, they would make what they call shoebox dollhouses. Again, a lot of this stuff is just gone forever. No one even have an idea unless someone saves the stuff. So they were, shoebox dollhouse. And they would, just like this, they would make, because these ladies would buy all these shoes, and like, what do you do with all these shoes, these shoe boxes? And so my aunties would make these little dollhouses like this, and they would get this fancy, making toilets and making different rooms. So this woman here is obviously too young to have been doing it back then. So one of her parents or aunties obviously taught her, and now she's teaching her kids. But these are just simple things that are crafty, that you can do with your kids. And these are just things you can just make from all the, if you just take, say, like the foam that comes out of the boxes that you get all your gadgets in, uh, and some hot glue, and you can make these little dollhouses. But that's what they did back in the day, to keep. Because how do you keep kids entertained when back then you had TVs, but the TVs only showed a handful of channels, and those channels usually had cartoons that came on Saturday mornings for the kids. But then once you got past a certain time, it was just stories, soaps, Laverne and Shirley, and all those type of Mork and Mindy, and Gilligan's Island, and all those type of shows. I Dream a Dreamy, Bewitched, Beverly Hillbillies. You had all these different shows that, for a kid, may not have been fun to watch. We watched a lot of it because we didn't have any other choice but to watch that if we wanted to watch TV. But these type of crafts, like here, gave them hours and hours of just using scraps and things that would have been normally just garbage, like you see what they're doing here, and making fun replicas of houses, little doll houses. Yep. And again, I had a bunch of aunts, and they would spend hours with this, and they would have quite the masterpieces well, with this. And this was before, we had hot glue guns, and well, they were pretty close with those scissors there. But I'm glad to see with this idea that people are keeping this thing alive. Look at little books from the bookshelf. I mean, this was a very cool little concept. So if you have little girls, in your household, and you want to do something that's not, computer based, internet based, and handheld gadget based, this is a very fun thing to do, to create this little doll house with just little things that you can just get from a craft store or Michael's, or any of those little stores. And it makes these kids, when you're doing things with your hands, it makes you have appreciation of them more. Your creativity levels, are out the roof, to just think about these things. Look at that shower, little toilet, yeah, I have a soldering gun. I keep saying I'm gonna learn to use it more. I'm just, it's one of those things, like if you don't know what to do, you tend to do nothing. So I have used it, but I have some wires that's loose on my multicade to allow my power switch to work. And the wires just came off. And all I need to do is solder it on, and I still haven't done it. Maybe I'll get that done before the snow melts. Again, just reminiscing about the time and things we did in the past. That's much different than how we do things today. I saw a video earlier today talking about the speak and spell, and they made newer versions of them, but they're making newer versions not for the modern kids, because the modern kids they're not going to use that speak and spell machine when they have a iPad 6, iPhone 16 that can speak to them, and tell them whatever they want to know. They're making those things basically for people that want to reminisce and have them on their shelf as decorations of the times gone. That those things wouldn't hold the attention of today's kids because they have such, higher technology. But so I'm glad to see this woman here passing on this concept and having her daughter and her work on something together to do something fun. And yeah, this thing will probably be around for a few years and then go in the trash, but it's just all trash that they're making this stuff out of. But How cool is that? Just to make these shoebox dollhouses. Let me know what you guys think in the in the um, in the comments for those watching later as well. Um, Pretty cool concept. And again, these are things you guys can do. I know Michael B has a young daughter. Um, this is a great craft to be able to do with her if he was interested. Um, what else? From childhoods, the gadgets I like. I like Simon. I don't know if you guys remember that game, Simon. It just did patterns, different colors and different patterns. Simon, so, based off of like the Simon Says thing. But Simon was a really fun game. Let's just say 80s Simon. Hey. I'm sure you guys want to see this. This is Simon was a game we would play hours and hours of, and it was cool because you could take this even on a road trip. We could take a lot of road trips down to Ohio to go to Jalaga Lake and Kings Island. We never went to Cedar Point. I don't know why that is. I don't know if Cedar Point wasn't around then yet, or maybe it was named something else before it became Cedar Point. I don't know, but I never heard of Cedar Point until I got much older. But Kings Island and Jalaga Lake, we always did that. We made forts with our GI Joes, Star Wars figures, packing phones. Yep, tons. Yep. And remember those little green army men? You get a bag of those little green army men, and one was shooting a bazooka, one was laying down with a sniper rifle or something, and some had radios calling for help, etc. And we would make little forts with those things. Tons of fun with those. Matchboxes, cars, and I still see those around. I know my brother was saying he was getting some for his grandson. But those little tracks, say 80s Matchbox tracks, not tracks, race tracks. Now before, not the electric ones. I mean, electric ones that came along later, but these guys are a little insane with these here. But the Hot Wheels, you would get those tracks and they would just run along the track just off of their own motion. Those are definitely childhood favorites, and just collecting those Matchbox cars. But you would put together your track and it would be considerably less than this, and you didn't have a camera mounted on it on the track like this here. But we had tons of fun with those simple tracks, and they had this little wheel motion that would propel right there, that little piece there. It would propel that vehicle down the track until it came back to that. And obviously you can have more than one, but most of us never had more than one because they're getting out of control here. But yeah, Hot Wheels. Did I not say Hot Wheels? That's probably, yeah, I did say Hot Wheels. I said Matchbox. There you go. Hot Wheels. Racetracks. And then they started selling these little kits, right? You could always buy these little different gas stations, and but they all had like little building and a series of tracks that would go with them. This one here, where you would collide in the center of the track. But these were always fun growing up. Just to have those cars, you could trade the cars with your friends. And all the cars were different, right? Some would have the doors can open, some the trunks will open, some the hoods would open, and Dane, what are you confused about Hot Wheels? What are you confused about, sir? Oh, you confused me, yeah, but yeah, I got what you're saying. Yeah, Hot Wheels. Yeah, definitely smash that like button. So these were what we enjoyed first, right? Simple cars, all different styles. Some were trash. If you pushed them on the floor, we all had these non-carpeted floors where these things would go for days if they're good, or skid out in a inch or two if they were terrible cheap ones. So you always knew if our parents cheaped out on us because the wheels were horrible on the bad ones. But then they evolved to those from those to the electric racetracks, right? 1977 Night Tyco. And again, we say evolve because some people it's all based on money, right? Who had the money to get any of these things, right? But then these came out that were electric and powered, and that was if you had one of these, you were the man for certain. Yep. So definitely enjoyed playing with these tracks. One thing we did a lot too was the model cars. We would get these kits, and you had to glue them all together. Take days, weeks to do, and you had that glue. And glue back then, if you smelled it, you could get poisoned probably, and if you got it on your skin, it wasn't coming off. So things are definitely evolved with hot glue. Today, things are much simpler and easier, but back then, you could only work on those things for so long because the fumes from that glue was just so pungent. It was crazy. Mad question for you: how many volts are coming out of the USB in the XL Gold TCAPs? How many volts are coming out of the USB? I would assume is the cabinets are 12 volts, powered by 12 volts. All of the RK1 up 3/4 scale cabinets are powered by 12 volts. The counter Ks are 5 volts, I believe. I don't know the exact, but I would assume it would be no higher than 12 volts if you're powering it off of the power that's powering the unit. Now, if it's modded and you have something different in there, like a Raspberry Pi, that could change that. But I believe it's 12 volts. Yes, and Dane says, yep, for sure. Let's see. For about a month, my backyard was nothing but piles of dirt before we redid the grass. I made some tracks that month. I made so many tracks that month, it was insane. Wow. Correct. 12 volts from the PCB. Yep. This is 12 volts power. USB is 5 volts. Okay, so if you're powering something, you're saying it's only going to get 5 volts from the USB. Okay. Again, I don't know. I know it shouldn't be greater than that, and I know on the counter case it's 5, and I know that powers the whole unit, and it's 12 volts. That powers the whole unit on the 3/4 scale. But as far as what percentage of that power or voltage goes to the USB, we're getting conflicting answers, but it's either 5 or 12, and no greater than that. So, thanks, Michael, for winning for that. Yeah, you know, I've been looking for some action figures for my little arcade. I have my Watch Dogs figures, but they're holding guns. Or are they both holding guns? I believe yes, they are. And guns and arcades don't really go together. But but they're hanging out in there because they're the only figures I have. And I've been looking for some figurines, but these figures are so expensive, if not impossible to find. It's crazy. If you tap the power supply on the arcade one up, it's 12. Okay, yeah. Yeah. And if you tap the power on the countercade, it's 5 volts. So I've been saying it right the whole time. Countercades, the USB power, if you tap it into that, is 5 volts. In the 3/4 scale, it's 12 volts. But yeah, I would like to get some figures for my little small arcade here on display. And it's like they want upwards of $75 for just about anything that's cool. Or you can buy these little figures that they come with no head, and they just come with the body, and then you got to buy some outfits for them, and then heads to go with them, and all this stuff. It's like, ooh, my head blew just thinking about it. It wasn't as simple. I just want to be able to go buy a couple of figures and put them in there, but it's not. And I want to have figures that look like they would be at the arcade, right? I don't want any mystical creatures or superheroes or aliens or army men, muscle with guns, right? Guns in their hands and guns on their body, so I have not been able to find that. But we're approaching an hour, and I appreciate you guys stopping in and saying hello. I appreciate those who made it this far by watching the replay. Let me know what you guys enjoyed playing in your youth that's no longer either available, or your kids just don't have any concept that type of fun even exists. I love to hear about it and talk about it. Maybe it's something I can bring up on another Chillin with the Love in the Love Cave. I appreciate you guys. I love you. I respect you. And until next time, I'll see you on the web. Adios, amigos.
Thanks for watching Detroit Love. Please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. We want to see and read your comments below. And until next time, I'll see you on the web.